All right, this is the video that's going to split everybody who's going to listen from this point on almost for sure. Earth was created and seeded by what we call extraterrestrials, which is not an appropriate word, but it's the one that you recognize. Galactic and celestial beings would be a much more accurate description. The Earth and civilizations have been started and destroyed many times over. And we were on a path to do that again. The reason that we end up in that place is twofold. One, this is Earth is it's a creation. It's an experiment. And it's a divine experiment. There's nothing wrong with it. It's how things work. But because we were given this is a very special place, in essence, to be. Lots and lots of beings wanted to incarnate here because it's such a unique environment. But what's happened is that we've finally evolved to the place, not us, but actually the Earth has evolved to the place. She's a being herself. And she is going to ascend to a new dimension herself. And nothing can stop this anymore. And we were on a path to obliterate ourselves again. This started right after we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was perceived that essentially we're heading in the same directions that we've headed for and killed civilizations off many times before. But that can't be allowed anymore, even though there's non-interference. The problem is us doing that interferes and has shock waves of that are violent towards other planets and beings in the galaxy, and we can't do that. So a system of rescue has been put into place that we're at the culmination point of, and there's essentially just going to be a split like a cell divides. It's already in progress. It's been in progress. And the cell is the Earth. And the Earth has a holographic new Earth right over this physical Earth that we are in now. And that's what I talk about decision-making and ascension. You're either going to stay or you're going to ascend. And all of that is going to depend on how you are vibrating at the time that process is complete. Okay, strap in. Here's the whole deal. Who are you? Why are you here? You are a divine spark of pure energy that came directly from source. You're made of the exact same material from which everything comes. You are consciousness. That divine energy source creates thousands of personalities that each have their own conscious, their own purposes, and you that I'm talking to is actually only one of those. So recognize that you are the source of you, and you maintain the limitless, this part of you maintains you at all times. You don't exist, don't live, don't do anything without that. But you came to the Earth, which is an environment with very unique properties, one of which is a agreement of non-interference. This is where free will comes from. The second thing that makes it actually very difficult here is that shortly after being born, you forget everything that I just told you about your real self. And that is part of the play, that is part of the act, that is part of the great drama that's going on the Earth. And you're a part of it, and you're playing an important role, but what you think of as your life is not being lived as fully as it can, because you are no longer in direct connection consciously with the bigger part of you. And we're in a time where the most important thing, if you want to live the life you really want, is you've got to go inward. You've got to spend more time on the inside than the outside, because the inside is what creates the outside. So right now, everything in your life, every single moment, every situation, every single thing, you are creating moment by moment, but you don't know that, don't believe it, or you believe it on some levels and on some not.
But there's nothing that comes out of you that is not created by you. It's just you're either doing it consciously or you're doing it unconsciously by allowing the egoic structure that you have built to basically run things, and you think that's you. So the solution to living a deliberate life is to create deliberately by learning and getting reattached to who you really are and tapping into the energy source that you really are and your abilities to create in a way that is very powerful and emotionally satisfying to you. That's the only way to get there.
Okay, I'm going to start with the most kind of vital, time sensitive thing, and then I'm going to back off of that perspective and get bigger picture. But right now, you have made a decision already. From my understanding, the decision has already been made in you. And that's a spiritual decision, not a conscious decision. Of whether you are going to ascend with a new planet or stay on an old planet. And the differences when that is complete between those two planets will be multidimensional. It'll be an immense difference. One, if you've chosen to ascend, will be a much, much lighter, beautiful, compassionate planet. And everyone will have ascended to the place where, it'll just be so very different. I can get into that later. But I want to start with, first of all, if you're still listening to me, you probably made the decision to ascend, because otherwise you're not going to care about this information. So I want to start with 3 things that you can be doing regardless of where you feel you may be and having made a decision, that is going to help immensely and should be the primary focus of your life from my perspective and opinion. And that is, 1, you've got to develop a love for yourself. I mean, a deep, abiding, loving understanding and acceptance of who you are. And that's going to spill out into other people. Number 2, it is imperative that you let go of all your resentments and unforgiveness towards everyone who's ever been in your life. And that includes resentments and unforgiveness of yourself. In fact, that's the primary place. And then you go to the other people. And third, you have to process every single piece of fear that comes into your world. We are a dense world with an entire atmosphere of fear that you're not even aware of how thick it is. And you've got to deal with your own fear personally. Those are the 3 things to be focusing on, and I'll include ways to do that later. But I want to give you that introduction so you can begin working on those, and we'll take off from there.